Many of us live convinced of the lifestyle we have achieved, and we work hard to maintain that certain comfort in life with a good job or a privileged position, which can get us a little closer to that standard of profit and fame that the media bombard. We have become accustomed to ignoring that which does not bother a bubble of conformity, believing that it is something distant or external which cannot reach us. Why? How did it start? Or for what? What would we be like today if we hadn't fallen? During this voracious multidynamic that only confuses reason day by day, many have learned the lesson about the change of fortune of time, but many continue in their bubble of conformity, believing that they will always have the privilege of having a job to sustain the expenses involved in the enjoyment of material resources. Over the years, I have discovered that money or fame are often temporary and that material goods become old and useless. Also, that comfort, of which many feel safe, is much more fragile than they can imagine. The change of fortune of time is undoubtedly the best teacher, which shows us that just as one day we cry in fear or pain, sometimes we laugh for the joy of the heart. That having everything, we ended up even without friends or family. But with nothing, we have achieved what we never imagined. I've seen it myself. Rich people literally ending up on the streets, and poor people getting rich. No one is left without riding on the Ferris wheel, and no one is exempt from its sudden changes. Everyone talks about the homelessness, but only as a stereotype that society has created because it doesn't fit into the social norms that the supposed progress demands. We have investigated the variables of the problem very thoroughly, and there not seems to be an agreement among governments to solve social discrepancies and inequalities. On the contrary, it has become a vicious and obscene game where bad is now apparently good. Political interests for power have hurt rather than helped the world's population. The game of inflation we see after each election brings its unique problems, which affect the most vulnerable as always. The lack of affordable housing has become a global problem, where it is increasingly difficult and almost impossible to get to own your own home. Commodity prices become more like a mockery for those who can barely afford the essentials. The lack of employment, especially in the poorest countries of the planet, has led many to reinvent themselves, creating means and actions to procure themselves some food, but still only enough to survive for a few days. While a part of the world's population struggles to get the most advanced phone or a new set of golf clubs, some people in these poor countries will settle for just a piece of bread. One will expect to find poor people in those countries, but the truth is that we can find them everywhere, even in those countries with first world economies. So this shows us that it is not a problem exclusive to any country. In this new era, thanks to the great technological and scientific advance, the human being has in the palm of the hand the wisdom of the world and the little that has been discovered until then of the universe, but is used as a hobby that consumes the valuable in a storm of irrational obscenities that do not give a chance to any escape. These engineered means cause conditioned tendencies where the vulgar sells more than any religion. I wonder if we could change the content of the media to achieve a different reaction.
Well, down my bottle, it makes me feel alone. Well, when my bottle in the Kentucky sun, outside of Walmart, standing with my glass, figuring I can count on a song from the radio. Uncle Mike in my glass and the wind in the bottle of wine. You fill the bottle in the gut of the Kentucky sun. And the wind in my bottle as the bus drives away. The wind in the bottle makes me feel no pain. In the Kentucky sunlight, in the Kentucky sunlight, I'm washing my hands as the wind is blowing up my spine. The wind in my bottle, drinking it on down. In the country sunlight makes my phone go round. And I don't really care in the Kentucky sunlight. Drink it down in the Kentucky sunlight. Yeah.
Homelessness in Kentucky. It's a growing problem. According to HUD, there is just over 4,000 home or housing insecure people. And that is from the HUD Association. So those are people who live in hotels or who couch surf. That doesn't include people who live in structures that shouldn't be lived in or who live on the streets. That gets tricky in getting those numbers. One, because, well, they don't have an address to actually, take the census or anything like that. But then they're not applying for benefits or anything, so there's no way to, get a count that way.
My name is Kyle McDougall, and I'm Associate Minister at First Christian Church in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And my main roles are outreach and children's ministry.
My name is Nicole Turner, but I go by Nikki. I identify as an alcoholic because I am in an AA program, Alcoholics Anonymous. Drugs are my drug of choice, different drugs, not necessarily alcohol, but I work in AA programs, so I identify as an alcoholic. I've been clean and sober for a little over 4 years. I'm also an ex-offender. I did 18 months on a 3-year sentence for possession of drugs in the state of Texas. I was released on December 19th of 2019. I've been out almost 3 years. So, I currently hold a position as a career coach for Goodwill Industries of Kentucky in the Bowling Green Career Center. In that position, it's my job. It's a lot of case management is what it is, but the primary objective is to help somebody find a job that they enjoy, help them get whatever certifications they need to get that job that they enjoy, and then look at the barriers that are keeping them from getting that certification or getting that job. So like when we talk about barriers, homelessness is a barrier. Transportation issues is a barrier. Not having a cell phone is a barrier. Having the correct clothing for whatever job is a barrier. Being a felon is a barrier, And so what we do at Goodwill Career Center is we work with a lot of different employers, especially second chance employers that are okay with most types of backgrounds. And when it gives the clients an opportunity to go and make a substantial wage, even with their background, and provide for their families, right?
So, my name is Rachel Lucan, and I became homeless. Well, it's been a total of 7 years. But I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and we came up here about 3 years ago due to bad decisions. Me and my husband, we've been together for 16 years, 5 children. And let me take this back. When we first moved up here, it was through the pandemic. And then after I really didn't know where to go. I knew about Salvation Army, and I knew about, what they did, but only to extent. I didn't think that they actually can help you have another life that you used to live, But I made bad decisions. So did my husband, and we are 9 years clean. And then after a while, we started going to church over there.
I'm Tammy McCory. I'm an executive director and founder of Live the Proof Inc., where we offer people a hand up instead of a hand out. We have a soup kitchen that we run twice a week. We have a daytime shelter for people to get out of the elements. We also run a nighttime shelter, and we do health fairs, job fairs, free grocery store. We offer transportation. We help people get their identifications, driver's license, birth certificates. And we're just now opening, at the end of this week, we'll be opening our first men's transitional house.
I also hold a position with Supportive Roads Mentoring Services as program director for the recovery end of things. I'm a adult peer support specialist, and I'm a certified alcohol and drug counselor associate 1.
The church, the Catholic Church, though, has the obligation to ensure the dignity of every single human person is made in the image and likeness of God. And therefore, we as a church really have that obligation to care for the poor, to love our brothers and sisters as Christ would see them, as Christ would love them. And so that's what we are called to do here at the church. And so, and that's how we try to respond. Do we do it perfectly? No, we don't. But we do what we can to respond to the homeless issue. And anybody that really comes to the doors of the church, we try to facilitate an encounter with Jesus Christ, to let them know that they're loved, and then, whatever help they may need. We have an opportunity to be with them, to walk with them, and I think that's the most important thing we can do as a church.
The church I attend is Victory Hill Church, and I'm actually the director of hospitality there. My name is Kara Ellinger, and I am the director of hospitality there, and then I have my homeless ministry on the side. So, and that Victory Hill has opened up a Dream Center in Scottsville, and that caters to the recovery as well.
So yeah, I mean, this area in particular has a lot of homeless people in it, and it could be a number of sources of what causes homelessness. I think a number of factors go into that, so I think it's important that we're prudent and we're careful to say what they are, because I'm sure it'll be a number of things, from socioeconomic status to whatever the case may be for each individual person.
Homelessness is getting worse in this country. I come from that population, and one of the reasons I think a lot of people are staying homeless is because of how this country does charity. And I say that because charity just gives you, and it doesn't require you to do anything for it. And if you don't do anything for stuff, you don't value it. And if you don't value it, you're not going to take care of it. And so therefore, it just becomes a repetitive cycle for some folks.
I've had some clients that choose homelessness. And you want to think, like, why in the world would you want to be camping behind Zaxby's in a tent when it's 10 degrees outside and you don't have one of the sleeping bags that are, for that degree, that low of a degree, and you're freezing to death? Why do you choose that when we have places like Room at the Inn during the winter? We have places like the Salvation Army. And what that boils down to is that they just don't feel comfortable. Sometimes it's a social anxiety. Sometimes with the particular person that I'm thinking about, there was some mental health in there, but not enough to where it was so diagnosable that he would have to get help. You see what I'm saying? Like, everybody else saw it, but he didn't. And but he was choosing. He said that God had told him that he was supposed to live like that, and that was his choice, that he was going to live like that. And it's sad. It's sad in those type situations.
So my experience with folks struggling with homelessness, we like to call them our neighbors. We know I could probably count 6 right now that I know by name. who come to our church regularly for some of the services we provide here. And I would say that their situations are each a little different. Several of them I know have issues with drug addiction or alcoholism. But I also know that they've had some trauma in their lives that may have led to self-coping, to use those things as mechanisms to cope with the trauma that they've had. I also know that some of them have untreated mental illness, and they're just in a situation that they don't want to change right now. And I think that is working for them to some degree. It may not work for the city or for the politicians or for our downtown neighbors who don't want to see our homeless friends. But they have figured out a way and a system to live this life that they've chosen for now.
And another very big reason is addiction. Addiction and homelessness just kind of coincide together. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. Addiction is a choice at first, and then it becomes a disease. And when it reaches that disease level, that person cannot get out without additional help.
We also have the group that have the mental health issues that this country is doing nothing to help with, where they've closed down mental health hospitals and places for people to go to. Now they have no place to go, so they put them out on the street, which makes our homeless situation that much worse. And then the problem with that is there's no way to be able to get these people the proper help that they need, medication-wise, doctor-wise, therapy. It's really hard to be able to get them all the treatment that they need. And then you got the other population of people that are there from drug addiction. And that's another special kind of help that's needed there. So we got like 3 different populations within one population. With each one of them has different issues and different needs to bring them out of homelessness.
And I know that one of the causes that I didn't talk about, like, a lot of people are easy to point a finger and say, oh, they need to go get a job, or they're just lazy, things like that. But I mean, I've gotten to know these people, and they have deep issues. Some of them, maybe they are lazy and they've figured out a way to work the system, but it's like that in every issue in life. When you have a community service like we do, you're going to have people that work the system, but you still do it for the people who don't. And our homeless friends, they've been through a lot. And yeah, some of our panhandlers around here, that's what they choose to do as their work. And people give them money, so they're going to keep doing it until people don't give them money anymore. But that's the individual's choice.
And we do live in a world, and I don't know if I can say this or not, but we do live in a world that, you know, a lot of people don't think, but we have a big problem for, you know, when you think about people being homeless, you know, you think about, oh, well, they made a bad decision, or yes, they did, the majority of the time. But a lot of that is, it's also like, people don't understand that they can have family problems when they're little, you know. For instance, my husband, you know, growing up, they're from Boston, and you know, his mother all the time, it wasn't like a nurturing. So as a kid, you know, you look for something else to kind of, how do you say it, kind of numb that feeling, you know. And just like me and my husband, you know, we were talking, and I thought, you know, there's a lot of problems though nowadays, more so with drugs or whatever else it may be, that can lead us up to where we're at now. But it's like I tell everybody that I know that comes in here, I said, you know, if you need help, if it's drug choice, or if it's having an alcohol problem, or if it's, you know, you just, whatever it may be, there's people here to talk to them on any, and we do not judge. Because I mean, someone could have definitely judged my situation, But I tell you what, I'm very thankful where I can say, hey, I've been 9 years clean.
Talk about substance use disorder. You know, when we look at the homeless situation, you do have mental health impacting it, because you can't tell a crazy person they're crazy. They're gonna think you're crazy. You know, I mean, you can talk to them and say, you know, hey, I'm seeing some psychosis here. You know, I understand it. I wouldn't be a peer support if I didn't understand it. You know, I've been through substance use psychosis, you know, like drug-induced psychosis. I've been through some stuff like that, so I can almost relate to them, even if it's not substance related on the psychosis. But essentially, they have to end up harming themselves or others in order to be put in a position to get the help, to be made to get the help that they need. And so a lot of those people are choosing to live as homelessness because they aren't understood by the greater social construct. Does that make sense? And you talk about halfway houses or sober living environments. Okay, there's several of those around. You can live in those. You won't be able to drink or use drugs. Okay, you have to go to so many meetings a week. It's X amount of dollars a week. You have to have a job. You know, these things. What happens if we have a 24-year-old with schizophrenia, no substance use, and nowhere to go? Are we going to take them and put them in the Salvation Army just to get kicked out the next day because they have nobody understands their psychosis or, you know, their mental disease or defect? Or are we going to try to figure out a housing situation for those people, do like a sober living environment for people with mental health issues? You know, have a peer support living on site, just like we do with substance use disorder and the sober living environments. Have somebody, a peer support living on site with them that is experienced with mental health issues and able to make sure that they are going and coming just the way they're supposed to. A checks and balance.
It doesn't make sense to me that people are making $15 to $18 an hour and it's still not enough to cover the cost of living. Housing market is ridiculous. You're supposed to be able to pay 33% of what your income is towards your housing. But housing is pretty much, it requires most people 66% of their income. So that takes two people to live in a place, and most people can't afford that. So between the lack of jobs, and then which I think is funny because they say there's such a lack of jobs for folks. But I do job fairs to bring folks in to get jobs, and one of the biggest complaints I've gotten from folks is they come to these job fairs, they do the application, and then they never hear anything back. So it kind of limits who can get a job. This 7-year felony thing keeps people from being able to get a job. If they lowered that to 3 years, that would give a whole nother 4-year population of folks an opportunity to get a job. And if you can get a job, you can better yourself.
Well, and if you are homeless or the working poor or someone who just needs help filling in some gaps, most of the social services have been moved out to the Lover's Lane area. And in order to get there and to get back to ride the bus, it's going to take you all day. I recently took a bus ride through the West End. We went to Walmart and then we came back to downtown. And if you wanted to go to Walmart, you would have to get there, do everything you need to do in an hour to get back on the bus, or else you were going to be stuck there for 2 hours. And if you went over the 2 hours, you're going to be stuck there for 3 hours. And they might pick you up and you have a short ride to Walmart, but then when they pick you up at Walmart, you might have an hour ride to get back to your spot. So it was really interesting to see how that transportation works and is not working because it takes a chunk out of your day. So if you need to use social services and you have a job and you don't have a car, what do you do? And if it's raining or snowing or tornadoing or whatever else it's going to do in Bowling Green, it's hard to walk or ride a bike, especially that far. So that is a problem. I don't know as much about transportation, but I would encourage people to go and ride a route on the Go Bus just to see what it's like, because it really opened my eyes to what folks who don't have a car have to go through. And it could be stressful.
There's not a lot of people that can do that. And I'll even go a little bit further. Talk about foster care. All right, we talk about how the foster care system is overloaded. DCBS, Child Protective Services, they've got 90, 100 cases each when they're really only supposed to have like 30, 40. You know, at one point they had kids sleeping in the DCBS office because there was nowhere to stick them. Now, if you look at all of these cases and you pick out which ones are substance use disorder related or have felons as parents, how are they going to get their kid? How are they going to get housing in order to get their kids back to relieve the foster care system and release the DCBS caseload if they can't get subsidized housing? So that one key component that our government has the power to change, do it 1 year. You know, 1 year. You have to go to a sober living environment for 1 year or treatment for 1 year, and then after that, we will allow you to rent a government subsidized through HUD housing. But this is what you got to do. Put in the work, and we'll help you.
Here in Scottsville, Kentucky, there are some local organizations that do outreach. And was speaking with them, they serve around 80 people a week, 60 to 80 people. Not all of those are on the street. There is a portion of that, but they even have a hard time giving me those numbers of exactly who lives on the streets and who's just couch surfing. But it's growing. That the homeless population is growing. There are different reasons it grows. You know, the economy is one of the big ones. The reality of it is most of our country is just a couple paychecks away from being homeless. We have people out there who are working hard at honest jobs who can't afford their mortgage or their rent, along with groceries and utilities and, you know, vehicles. And when the price of everything goes up but their wages don't, that creates a problem. And so that is our current situation of one of the main reasons why our homeless population is growing.
With all the money and resources we have, I don't believe we should have any homelessness here. There's no reason that if you serve your country for how many years that you serve, that you come back and have to live on the streets. That doesn't make sense to me.
Additionally, you know, that also causes a problem. I had a client, she was a veteran, okay, on disability. She had 2 adult sons. One of them was severely autistic, severely. Also had some schizophrenia in there. He had had an episode, a mental health episode, and had attacked his brother, okay? And so that all happened about 2 years ago. You know, they've been living in their car for 2 years because they can't get housing, even though she's a veteran. They can't get housing if they want to stay together. All because he had a mental health episode and attacked his brother. And it's very frustrating because you can't, I mean, I searched and searched and searched and searched trying to find her an apartment. You know, they couldn't afford an apartment, you know, out the gate. And now with rent prices, it's insane. When I come out, I couldn't find housing. Most people would not rent to me. Even up to 2.5 years of being out of prison, devoting my life to the service of people in recovery and reentry, my whole life. And I had nowhere to live.
It can go either way, honestly. The way that the world is today, we just never know. I mean, you know, it's, you turn on the TV, something else has happened, or, you know, you don't even, I mean, somebody done tweeted this or said this, and, you know, it's like, you know, I know I've heard my grandmother say, because she was born when the Depression hit, and she told me, she said, she's like, Rachel, I remember, Dad going down there and trying to get work, but I think in society today, people are not wanting to work, and I think that has a big problem with, they're so, and I'm not saying this for everybody, but the ones that need help can't get it because the ones that get the help are not doing nothing about, doing nothing. So, for instance, and I have seen, like, say someone, applies for food stamps. Another person applies for food stamps. One has a job and one doesn't. Well, the one with the job doesn't get the food stamps. The one without the job gets the food stamps. So, to me, I just don't, in a way, I feel like, so if people are actually doing the right thing, you turn them down.
I don't know that I believe in socialism, because I think that takes progress out of humanity. But I do believe in compassionate care and mindfulness, And I can have compassion on somebody and say, hey, you want to come grab a sandwich with me? That don't take long. That don't take, what, $3, $4,
One of the things I found out about being homeless is there's three things that are essential to getting out of it. 1, identification. 2, a job. 3, transportation. And then 4, shelter. And if you don't have those, it's going to be incredibly hard to get out of this. I got out of homelessness because I had help. So I try and offer that same help to folks with what I do. But will homelessness go away? No. I don't see homelessness going away. Because as the food prices increase, rent increases, price of cars, you got to pay car insurance, health coverage. Most folks can't afford that. Most folks are maybe a paycheck or 2 away from being homeless, or 1 potential accident from being homeless. So it's I deal with a variety of people. Those that are drug addicted, those with mental health issues, and those that are just falling on hard times. So yeah, no, I don't see homelessness going away.
It's like I tell my clients here that even though you feel like you get upset or you don't know what else tomorrow's going to bring. I always tell them, listen, I know you may not want to hear it, but I was here a year ago. And I know if I can do it, then so can you.
Can we end homelessness? I believe we could, but it would take a lot of work. And it would take a lot of sacrifice, which I don't think most in this country are willing to do to help the next person get up.
But let's talk about Bowling Green. I am sure that there is a lot of people of homeless. So right now, as a community, or wider as a society of Bowling Green, we need to maybe sit together, have some plan. How can we support them? How can we basically cure that homeless situation, and in which way we can help them? So maybe that will decrease, on one or the other way of homeless people.
And there's a lot of good people in this town. There's, I can think of one person in particular. Again, I haven't talked to them, so I'm not going to say their name. He brought this gentleman in. He had been going down to the campsite under the bridge and talking to this gentleman every day. And this is your, upper middle class Republican white man. You know what I mean? Like typical looking, But every day he went down there to check on this young man. It was a very tall, thin, black man, young man. He was probably 22. Every day, take him something to eat and go check on him. And he brought him into me one day, and we were going to try to see if we could get him a job, but just the mental health was too heavy. We couldn't, there's nothing I could have put him in job-wise without him getting medicated and getting to a solid baseline. Does that make sense? So we tried to get him housing, but he didn't want to go into a sober living house because he still wanted to be able to drink his beer, you know.
What can we do to help homelessness? Create housing, create opportunities for folks, create non-traditional opportunities, jobs, because everybody's not going to be able to work in a factory. Everybody's not going to be able to work in a fast food place. So we have to create other jobs for people to be able to do based on what their abilities are. Create communities, villages of smaller homes for folks, and let the village run itself. I have an idea for a village of small homes, of maybe 30 homes, with a garden that self-sustaining, where they grow their own vegetables, a doctor on the premises, a healthcare facility on the premises. All of these things can be self-sustained. We teach the people that live there how to grow the food, allow them to sell the food, get them training for jobs, offer them health care. I think that those things together, a holistic approach, and offer people mental health services. We offer a little bit of everything here. Mental health services, finding a lawyer for SSI, SSD, getting food stamps, whatever you need, we try and offer.
You know, again, with it growing, we need to all get on board with this. This isn't just a matter that a few people can really, do. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take government officials. It's going to take funding. Again, in a perfect world, where money is no object, communities, small communities, and I personally would love to do a horse-shaped community, because then you're creating that neighborhood of people who have been through similar experiences, and you've got an area in the middle that everybody can meet, and it's just kind of like this park. We all meet in the middle, and that's the purpose. It definitely needs to be fixed. Our system is broken. We have help out there for these people who can pay, but not help out here for these people who can't.
My only other concern, though, is housing for families. Like in the paper 2 days ago, I think it was, the city passed a $4 million grant for those experiencing those individuals that are unhoused. Unhoused is how they put it. I guess that's the new term, aside from experiencing homelessness. I guess that's the new PC term, unhoused. No, these people are homeless. They have nowhere to wash their hind ends. They have nowhere to wash their clothes. They are not unhoused. They are surviving in the wilderness at this point. So I got kind of offended about that. I don't know if I should have, but I did. So anyway, $4 million. But from what I understand, all this money is going to the Salvation Army. Now, I have no problem with the Salvation Army. I fully back and appreciate what they do for this community. Fully back and appreciate it. I've dealt with the people at the Salvation Army, with clients, But what happens if Joe Blow over here, and I wouldn't give you names, but I could tell you about 15 or 20 people that I know right off the rip that have been kicked out of the Salvation Army for oversleeping, or, leaving a towel on the floor, stuff like that. All this $4 million going to the Salvation Army, what are you going to do for these other 20 people? Why are you putting all of your eggs in one basket when you have private practice individuals that are willing and able to help with this situation if you will allocate the resources?
So I've been learning the hard lesson that I can't fix people, right? I can come alongside people, I can love people, but I ultimately cannot make the choice for them to change their life. They have to take that step and do that. So if you're going to go into a rehab facility, it has to be your choice. And some of the folks that we see regularly, I just don't think they're there yet. We're hoping to form relationships. Like, that's what we're doing now. We're not trying to say, oh, we served 300 families this month. Woo! No, we don't want to serve that many families. We want our numbers to get lower, but we want our relationships to increase, because that's when real change happens. And when you get to know people, you get to know their stories, you get to come alongside their lives, then you trust each other, and then you treat them as an equal, because we're all made in the image of God, right? But we don't look at each other like that. And that's been a big eye-opener for me.
Live the Proof is a standalone organization. We're a nonprofit 501c. We have been blessed. We're 3 years old. We've created a lot in the last 3 years. This is our soup kitchen, where we do a majority of our things here. We have a soup kitchen twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays we do a soup and sandwich. Reason we do soup and sandwich on Tuesdays is because we also do a grocery store for people to come in and get free groceries. And then also on Tuesdays on the second Tuesdays we do a job fair. On the third Tuesday we do a health fair we do a health fair where people can come in and get tested for HIV, STDs, Hep C. They can talk to an optometrist. There are people here to help them find out about Medicaid, Medicare.
When they come into our church, we regularly ask them if their situation has changed, because we have a community grocery store, and when they come in, we offer them different food items that they can take on the go or cook over a fire, or have a can that's a pop top so that they don't have to have a can opener or things like that they might not have at their camps or wherever they're sleeping. So we ask them, are you still unhoused? Has your situation changed? And every once in a while we get to celebrate with someone who has an address. Which is very exciting. So we get to type in an address to our database for the first time for this individual. But that happens pretty rarely. But we do ask, has your situation changed? Or are you interested in changing your situation? And most of the time they're like, no. But we will keep asking because we want them to know that they're comfortable here, they have a friend here. They have a place where they can go if they do decide to take the steps to change. And I'm not saying that they have to change. I just know that their situations aren't the safest. So we would like for them to be safe and warm and comfortable. But they have to see that in themselves. So our grocery store provides a dignity-based path for serving people who are food insecure. We have personal shoppers that shop with each one of our guests who come in, and our homeless guests can come once a week if they would like to get items that probably won't last the week, but with other services in the area they can probably find enough food or things that they need to get through an entire week. So we have a lot of folks that come on Wednesday evenings, although right now, because Room in the Inn is in session, which houses our homeless friends during the cold winter months, we haven't seen a lot of our homeless friends on Wednesday evenings because they're enjoying a nice warm dinner at a local church, and they're getting to take showers and do their laundry and sleep in a comfortable, safe place most of, November, December, January, February, March. They get that opportunity. And they have case managers through that and services that they know that they can use if they're ready. But we just like to be a place where they know that they can come and feel loved and have the dignity to choose the items that they want and go out and live their lives and when they want or if they never want to, they can come in and they know this is a place where they can find help.
We've partnered with Feed America, Kentucky's Heartland. So they partnered us with Walmart and the Dollar General stores. That's where we get our food and stuff from, donations from those places, and we give them out to the community. In the summertime, we have a partnership with H&H Farms, to where we get fresh produce, farm fresh produce come in, and we give that out. We also have a community drop-in center, which is open 7 days a week. It's open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. People can come in and get out of the elements. At the drop-in center, we help you get your ID, birth certificate, social security card, driver's license. We have access to, if you want to get your GED, you can have access there. If you want to get a trade, because we partner with Workforce Development, the Career Center. We've also partnered with Goodwill Industries. So if people would need to get extra training, they can come through us and we can transfer them to Goodwill or Workforce Development. If they want to go back to school, they can go back to school through Workforce Development. We also help them find a job. We have our own little connections of agencies that we work with to be able to find you a job. We call those emergency jobs. And then if we find you an emergency job, we also provide the transportation for you to get back and forth to work. And usually the folks that we provide transportation for stay in our overnight program. And we do that. That's open 7 days a week. That's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that's open from anyone over at the age of 18.
You know, there's a lot of things like that can be done, but they're asking all the wrong questions. In my head, it's really simple, all right? You go in and you change this one little law about the felons in subsidized housing. You give that just a little bit more gray area. You're not only going to be impacting the homelessness, you're going to impact the social workers, because their caseloads are going to decrease, because the majority of these people that are losing their parental rights to their kids is because they can't find adequate housing because they're felons and they can't afford $1,500 a month in rent. So you would impact that. You'd be taking a load off the family court system. And I'm just talking about the surface level stuff. I'm not even talking about the mental health and the emotional health of the individuals involved in all of this. So you take a load off of family court, take a lot off of that, you would see the criminal go down, the criminal side of things go down, because if they have a place to live, it's going to be a lot easier. You would see the foster care system would be more functional, because you wouldn't have all of these addicts' kids dumped in the foster care system, you know, and then not gotten back out because they couldn't get housing. So that one, I think about the ripple effect when I think about this stuff. That one small decision that our powers that be have the ability to make, and they aren't, would impact millions in a positive way. Not to mention the physical health, the mental health, the emotional health. It would make a large difference. And you would see a big influx of people not experiencing homelessness.
Government needs to step up and get more involved with it and supply the funding, but also they need to take people that's been in this situation, that have come out of it, and allow them to help the people that's in this situation. I believe nobody can help you better than someone that's been in the situation you're already in. And that's why I do what I do, because I've been in this situation. So I view it differently. I have a different respect for it than folks that are that's never been in this situation.
A lot of times a pilot program is exactly what people need to see that it works. Because sometimes if they may want to help so desperately badly, but they're scared that they might not be betting on the right thing, you know, that they might be putting their money somewhere that it's not going to work. So when you have that pilot program and you can show that it's going to work. And
how can we get to that point?
So for me personally, I have to become nonprofit. Like, I've got to get that 501c3 title, because once I get that, then I can get funding. And once I can get that funding, then I can get shelter. So it's kind of a stepping stone. And in the midst of all of that, I'll continue to go out and do what I can and meet those immediate needs and build those relationships. And the people who want to be, not seen, or the people who everybody else forgets, they're not forgotten. They're not unseen. I'll continue to meet them where they are, show them the love of Christ.
Are precisely these actions that we have oppressed which will undoubtedly significantly change our environment, and the only ones capable of truly changing the world.